Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this special call board meeting. We have a short agenda. Hopefully we won't be here too long. Got 4 or 5 games going on within the county. I know quite a few people like to go to some of them, me myself personally, but we'll take care of business real quick and we'll move on. This time we will have the invocation by Miss Brenda Fairby.
Let us pause for a moment of silence for a death that is in Mr. Gentry family and others in our school district, that they might be comfort. Amen. All wise creator of this universe and all mankind and all that dwelleth in it. Father, we come to you as humble as we know how, asking your guidance on everything. And in so doing our guidance and your guidance, we ask you to look upon Miss Lachelle Ransom family in a special way, and all those who are in need of a touch, a healing touch right now. We ask your divine glory upon them, that you might heal, deliver, set free, that you might have the glory out of all they say, do, or think, and those that are heavily concerned about the best interests of our district and the direction that we should go from this day forth. We're going to commit this meeting into your hands for your glory, your approval, honor, and praise. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. We have adoption of the agenda. Have a move. Motion by Brenda, second by Mr. Brewer. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion passed. First item is do we need to? Yeah, thank you, Henry. I'm glad you mentioned that. We have 2 or 3 board members and the attorney. Mr. Grady Hunt is not here. And Craig Lowry is not here. And Mr. Gentry, as Brenda said, has death in the family. So they're all virtual. They're all doing a virtual meeting. Do we want to start with Robbie, you said, or just want to?
New market tax credit.
Yeah. First information item is new market tax credit, Mr. Robbie Ferris.
Thank you. So when we were here last, I believe y'all asked if I would take a look at the new market tax credits and the applicability of it to the upcoming project. So I've done that, and I've looked at the schedule and how that might impact the schedule, also inflation. And as y'all know, we're going through some pretty serious inflation. Because you have the majority of the money needed to do phase 1, or we hopefully will when we get the needs-based grant, have the money that we need. My recommendation with phase 1 would be, or with the project actually, would be that you not pursue the new market tax credits. The total amount that you could possibly gain from that would be about $2 million net into the project. And if we do pursue the tax credits, it's going to be a long, hard road with the local government commission. It's going to mean an alternative delivery method, which they're not going to be happy with, and they're going to fight you with. And as you all know, they've intervened in the past into projects in this county. So my suggestion at this point would be to not pursue the new market tax credits, because I believe it could delay the project and create some problems that could be more costly than the benefits that you would get. So that's my thoughts on the new market tax credits, given where we're at. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have about that.
Anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that. I've done some research also, and because of the process of going through LGC, I concur with that recommendation.
Any other comments or questions? Henry?
Mr. Chair, can we move that to an action item and go ahead and clear that tonight? And that'll give Mr. Ferris or whomever is working on the project.
I second that motion if it's okay with the superintendent.
There's no reason to take any action on it. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you just don't do it.
Okay.
Okay.
You don't need action on it.
Thanks for chiming in. We appreciate it.
You're fine.
All right. Go ahead, Robbie. Anything else?
No, that's it. Do you want to talk next about the planetarium, and then we'll get into the grant application?
Okay, well, the next item is the Erica Sets with the planetarium funding.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Superintendent, Dr. Williamson, and board members. We're just giving progress reports as we go. The last thing that was pending for the $5 million SCIF SCIFI grant from the state was the scope of work. It has been submitted. Right before the meeting, we did receive an email that we've got to make a couple of updates on the scope of work, but it should only take 5-10 minutes to do, and we'll get that resubmitted. The next phase after that will be the contract that Dr. Williamson will sign, and then we should have funding within 7 to 10 business days after that. Any questions I can answer specifically related to that $5 million grant?
Anybody have any questions about the 5 million? And you said we'll just put that like in the interest draw in the account?
That's the last thing on their capital reserve fund is when I'll talk about that.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right.
Thank you.
Now we get to action items then. First action item is the COVID mask mandates. Dr. Freddie Williamson and Mr. Bobby Locklear.
Mr. Chairman and members, and to our public, good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Let me ask Mr. Bobby Locklear if you'll come and share our bulleted points of information, and then we'll ask for a vote, please.
Good evening, Chairman Smith, Dr. Williamson, board members. As we have said many times, things are constantly changing with COVID, and they have changed again. So one of the most recent updates, as most of you may be aware, is the North Carolina Strong Schools Toolkit was released on the 14th with new updates. There were no updates made to how we handle positives and individuals with symptoms in our buildings. What did change is how we handle those individuals that we consider exposures. Those individuals that have come in contact with someone who is positive no longer are required to isolate or quarantine. It becomes that individual's choice. For the public schools of Robeson County, we are going to continue to trace individually. So if there is a person in the classroom who is positive, we will identify those close contacts and let those parents, staff members know that there is a positive in the building, because we believe that parents still need to know if their children have come in contact with someone who is positive. The other change is that if you are exposed, then that individual must wear a mask for 10 days. I know later on we're going to ask for masks to become optional, but if an individual is exposed, then they must wear a mask for 10 days.
Bobby, let me, and I don't mean that. Is that what Raleigh said, or is that a local decision now?
That is the guidance that came from the Raleigh NCDHHS, but we have also consulted with Bill Smith and Tracy Jones at the health department, and they are supporting this decision.
Okay.
So what has not changed, we're going to, our nurses and CNAs will continue to track our positives. We will also, our schools are now going to be open to parents and visitors. We will open up our cafeterias with a condition there based upon staffing, because, you know, some of our cafeterias have skeleton staffs and may not be able to open up to 4 dining services, where we may have others that can open up completely and serve as if we were back in a normal situation. Desk shields are now going to become optional, but we are going to ask schools to save those because we never know where we might be down the road. Schools will continue to sanitize daily, the classrooms and the buses. Masking will no longer be required at our athletic events for our athletes nor the coaches who are participating. The only thing that did not change in terms of masking, and this is a federal requirement, individuals who are on our buses must continue to wear a mask. And that is both bus driver and the students on the bus, and that would go for activity buses as well. Anytime anyone is on our buses, they must wear a mask. We've completed an opt-out form for those parents who do not want their children to wear a mask, and we will share that with principals tomorrow. so that they can get that information out to the parents. And the final and most important piece is we have a lot that is dictated by Raleigh, but at the end of the day, the Robeson County Health Department really dictates what happens in our school district. So at any point in time, if conditions worsen in Robeson County, they could come to us and say, no, you're going to have to put your masking back in place. You're going to have to start sending your exposures home. In communication with them, they will continue to do some form of contact tracing. So if there's a situation where a positive has come in contact with some of our students, it may be that they call the school and say, this individual has become in contact with a positive. That individual must quarantine / isolate out of the school setting. So it is, just to be clear, the Robeson County Health Department at any time could step back in and say, you're going to have to change the way you're doing business, and here are the ways you need to change. And we are asking that, again, in order to inform our principals and our nurses that all of this would begin to take place on Monday, February 28th.
Henry's got his hand up.
Mr. Locklear, Dr. Locklear and Dr. Williamson, with all this being said, are we still aiming to continue to supply mask or needed supplies for teachers and students that does not opt out of the mask policy?
Yes, we have a big inventory of masks, cleaning supplies. All of that is still going to be in place. Yes.
Terry had his hand up.
For the pieces that are optional, like for example, disc shields, and in this piece where it says isolation or quarantine no longer required, it's an option. So for everything that's optional, who's deciding whether or not they're going to go by, or who's deciding who's the one that's in charge of making the options?
The parent is going to decide ultimately what, if they get the phone call and their child's been exposed, then that parent has the right to say, I want my child to quarantine isolate for the 5 days.
So what about for the like the discs?
Same thing.
shields?
The parents have the right to come up and say, I want my child to continue to have a death shield in the classroom.
Brandon, wait a minute, somebody. Craig, you got the floor.
Thank you. Mr. Bobby, the information you just said, does everybody have that there in a handout?
Should have it.
Yes.
Everybody should have it, Craig.
Okay. I was just going to ask, could we get it sent as an email? So if I could just get it as an email, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Brenda's got the floor.
I forgot it, I'm sorry. I want the public to know that this is not an act from the public schools of Robeson County, but Senate Bill what? 173. Also, within that bill, I want the students who parents still going to be wearing the face mask, they have the same rights as the students who does not wear the face mask, because that's not incorporated in that bill. So do we have to have a policy for that?
No, all students will be treated the same, whether the parent opts for them to wear a mask or if they opt for them not to wear a mask.
The same rights.
Same rights.
Now, when it comes to our staff, and if our staff get sick and they don't have any time left out, and I'm speaking of the COVID, okay? How will we do that then?
So what we decided, sorry, we got to get used to this. What we discussed was that we would work with staff with 5 days, and that was for this school year. If they've already used 5 days virtually or trying to make up 5 days, that is all they get. Any days after that, they will have to use their personal leave, sick leave, etc., earned leave. We will only, and that was because there's only enough time left in the school year to make up that much time, especially if you're not working virtually. But that's all we allow is 5 days for this school year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I release.
You got a follow-up?
I can wait on John, because he may be asking what my next question is going to be.
Go ahead, John. John's got the floor. It's probably not from me.
Did someone turn their mic off? There's only so many channels available.
I'll turn mine off for a minute.
See if it connects now, sir.
Like I said, my question is either for Chairman Smith or the superintendent. Being that we're gonna open the schools back up for the parents to come in, are we gonna open our meetings back up for the public to come in? I mean, I think it would be fair, you know.
I'm positive that's a question for our chairman.
I mean, I think we can open them back up. I mean, it'd be my intention. I've been willing to open them back up as long as everybody's courteous and polite, but, I'd say go ahead and advertise. Of course, we can advertise right now that floor will be open for the March meeting. Sounds all right with you, Dr. Williams?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John. Do you have a follow-up? That was the question.
Let me ask.
Let me ask you this too. Now, on this form, Dr. Williamson and Bobby, I see you said that children riding the bus would still have to wear a mask, but then if the parent signs this, it really doesn't say, I mean, how you gonna say, well, I mean, they get at the house, they get on the bus, they don't have their mask on, or they get to school and they opt out and they don't have their mask on. I mean, that's a lot of monitoring to do.
It is. Let me ask Dr. Guzman, if you'll comment, add to that. And what we've done to this point is we had masks on the bus that we could provide students, and I'm assuming that that's the same.
Yes, sir. The mask on the buses, since we are a public transportation conveyance system, we have to still follow by the CDC guidelines that go through that require masks to be on the bus. What we will be doing is what we've done during the whole entire pandemic is have masks available to students as they enter onto the bus to be able to give them no different than what we are currently operating on. Same thing with the hand sanitizer as they come on to be able to provide hand sanitizer for those students. So if a student comes to the bus stop and does not, they will be able to hand them a mask. Or if the student comes out of the school building and either lost it or on some of them they break, they'll be able to give them a mask as they enter onto that bus to be able to go home.
Dwayne?
I think, on the form right here, Mr. Bobby, just to probably I guess to protect those kids that have opted out, maybe to put something on there that they would still have to wear the mask on the bus, if y'all think that would probably be you know what I'm saying? So that way there's no discretion on that, if that kind of makes sense right there. Yeah.
Dr. Emmanuel, I'm sorry.
Thank you, finally.
Thank you. Sometimes you gotta wave, maybe holler at me if you need to.
I think all my questions have been answered. I have one final question. When does this start and how will you publicize it?
The intent, and I'll go ahead and make the recommendation to include that date. It is going to be my recommendation to the board that I'm requesting approval of the wearing of masks in the buildings, an optional decision by parents for students, and an optional decision for our employees to start on Monday, March the 28th. Okay.
March the 28th. March.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, February 28th.
February 28th.
Yeah.
What is it, February 28th? Yes. But again, that decision must be made by parents for students. And then, of course, our employees have that option to do. And then I do want to clarify, if you approve our request, the desk shield option, we will remove all desk shields, and then parents would have to request if they want their child to have a desk shield. And we can remove all shields because our employees that have a concern, they have the option to keep their masks on.
Dwayne had his hand up, then Henry.
Okay, so pretty much on everything right here, Dr. Williamson is you're looking at all of this being approved to start February the 28th. In other words, like the lunchrooms opening up, if the staff is available,
Right.
that shields just everything on February 28th,
That's-
correct?
That's right. And,
Okay.
and as we said, with limitations, we have to show how many parents are in the building. We're saying we can't have programs and all of that within, and that's going to be the responsibility of our principals to help us with that decision. But yes, February the 28th, Monday.
All right, and let me just go ahead and say this here. I would like to make the motion to approve it after all the questions get answered.
Henry had the floor, then Brandon.
Dr. Williamson, as I made my visits through in and out of classrooms, it was brought to my attention by a lot of staff that a lot of those masks are smudged, smeared, and scratched.
Master shoes.
Some of them probably,
Shields.
shields, I'm sorry, shields, they probably are not salvageable, but I'm sure some of them did look good. But that might be something we might need to consider. If in the future we have to come back and use those masks, we may have to look at purchasing some more. I'm not sure. I'm just throwing that information out.
Oh, absolutely. Bobby, how many do we have in inventory?
Brandon's got the floor.
My final question, because of the lack of maintenance workers that we got and us opening up the schools to the public for use, will there be an additional cost for them using it? I had you all thought about that.
It depends on, we wouldn't change the cost if you're making reference to rental of our facilities. We will keep the guidelines that's already in place. We wouldn't add to that.
Follow up. I mean, as far as having to get additional help to cleanse the building after it's used.
No, I'll be honest, we have not. We'll talk about that at some point.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Manuel.
Mr.
Somebody-
Chair, I just wanted to, when you say open up the school building, that means pertaining to COVID protocols. You know, principals still have guidelines about entering the school building and
That's
also.
correct. That's correct.
I didn't want that to get out there that everybody come in and do what you may. That's not what, we're not talking about that.
No, that's correct. That's correct. It's the procedures we had in place prior to COVID, and then following the COVID guidelines with that. But we do want to begin to return to some normalcy and again, control the number of parents that's in the building. We're having some programs now. Some schools are going to opt to continue to offer programs outdoors. That was had a tremendous amount of success with that. So again, what we're saying is let's give our building leaders, principals, the options.
You got, did somebody beep in? Mr. Craig, you got the floor.
Thank you. And it's good that, glad to see we're going to bring the public into the next meeting in March. Also, follow up with Dr. Emmanuel and Dr. Williamson. I would just ask that schools had guidelines on people coming in and out of campus, and we've kind of got to the point of where we're at now with that. And again, just that principals, this is not everybody just coming in and out as they please, for lack of a better way of saying it. And just to make sure that is monitored at school, as I'm sure all the principals will do.
That is correct. Thank you.
Dwayne.
Call for the question.
Did we have to vote? Did we vote? We hadn't voted yet, have we? Okay. So who wants to make the motion then?
I want to make the motion.
Second.
They call for the question. So Dwayne made the motion. Who's second?
Craig.
Dwayne made the motion, Vontae second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Brenda voted against.
Yes.
Just for the record. Okay. All right, the motion passed.
Great. Thank you.
Now we're back to the needs-based grant application approval. Freddie, Robbie Ferris, and Erica Setzer.
Okay, that sounds good. Good evening again. It's on. Mr. Ferris and I are going to go over the final application that we're going to submit for the additional $35 million for the need-based application. That would give us a total of the $50 million that we've discussed. It has, the detailed information with myself and Ms. Blue as contacts, and both sites are referenced on the application as we discussed. We are referring to the Career and Technology Center and Planetarium design that was previously presented in our meetings. All of the critical information about Robeson County as a whole, the fact that we're a Tier 1 county, the assessed value of our county as a whole and how low that is, and the ability of the county to generate revenue, all of that's included in the application. Of course, there's reference to the previous award that we received. We received that on October 14th of 20 when we got the original $15 million, and how it's discussing it would replace the existing Hilly Branch facility, and how many students. It will serve approximately 900 students. And the planetarium itself is expected to serve 10,000 or more as children cycle in and out from that area. And then we'll discuss the project budget.
Robbie, let me ask you this before you get started. I know we'd already been awarded the 15 million, and I know that based on the budget or the legislation that came out about the 50 million or the 40 million or the 30 million. How come we can't, and I know you're very involved with the Raleigh stuff and all that stuff, how come we can't apply for a whole new 50 million instead of trying to get 35 million? Does that make sense? Is that kind of crazy or what?
The way the legislation's written, you're actually applying with this application because you hadn't spent the previous award. You're applying to increase the award amount from 15 to 50. That's the way the legislation is actually written. And as we talked about last time, the legislation also allows you to come back the following year or next year and apply again, which of course that's our plan. And we have drawings, and we've written that into the grant application so that the folks at DPI know that's our plan. We think that's important that they know that we're going to be coming back next year asking for more money to expand the size of the building.
Yeah, I just thought if you could get it all up front, I know we already got 15, if we could get that another 50, not 35, 50, then we'd have 65 million. So, I mean, if that's the way it was wrote in the bill or whatever, that's a whole other thing. But I mean,
That's really not an option for us.
okay.
It's a good idea though.
Terry's got his hand up, didn't he?
Does that mean that if we don't break ground from now until next year, then we won't have the opportunity to apply for an additional 50?
No, because you'll have started spending the money just because we should break ground before then, but in the event of something happening and we don't, you will have started spending money. So the project will technically be underway.
I got Henry, then Dr. Emmanuel.
Mr. Ferris, when you said next year, is that school calendar year or is that 2022, 2023?
So that would be about this same time next year. So we would be applying for the same grant about this same time next year, assuming the calendar stays the same. They have the ability to change the dates a little bit, but I can't see any reason that they would do that.
Dr. Emmanuel.
Mr. Ferris, maybe it bounced on top of my head or something. The grant you have written now for the system, when do you anticipate hearing yet about if we receive it or not?
So the last guidance I heard on that was April.
April.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Okay. Would you like me to take just a minute to go through the budget and look at the floor plans? You want to take a minute to do that?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead. I mean, what I meant was go ahead.
Oh, okay. So Cole, could you scroll up just a little bit? I won't go through the budget in detail, but you see here the budget on the screen, and I guess scroll down maybe so we can see the bottom. I guess the bottom line from the budget is that we have a $59.9 million project you can see there at the bottom. So again, we're applying for the $50 million from the state. And then there would be $10 million approximately, I'm sorry, $5 million from the planetarium and then $5 million locally for a total of $10 million other than the grant money. And then we have the building program on the next few slides that we broke down by phase. You can see the total square footage up there in the yellow box is 89,968 square feet for phase one. And I'm not going to go through all the spaces in the building unless you want to. We can move on down to the floor plans. So we have done floor plans for the project based on that program. Scroll down. There you go. Can y'all see that? Scroll down so we can see the ground floor, if you don't mind. I'm going to walk around and take a minute to go over that.
While you walking, Robbie, how much money did they put in the budget for this in like 392 billion or million? What was that?
For this?
No, I'm talking about statewide.
It was about 360 million
Okay,
for the needs-based grant statewide.
okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to take a minute and walk you through this plan. This laser is hard to see. Can y'all see that right there in the yellow?
Yeah.
Right there's the planetarium. Because that's the round circle. But this is the main entrance to the building. Administration is here. The planetarium is here. There's another entrance here. You'd enter into the lobby of the planetarium. And of course, you can get from the lobby here into the lobby of the school. And then the science center is located here. There's some back of the house functions for the planetarium. Everything in this color here, you see as part of the planetarium. Some restrooms here that would be used by the planetarium. And they probably have a door here too, so we could flip-flop back and forth between the school after hours, lock it up here when the planetarium is being used and lock it up here when only the school is being used. Moving into the building, we have our spaces with the large high bay areas and the garage doors on the back of the building. And then flex labs on the front of the building and some ancillary spaces in the middle. And what you see ghosted on the background here is the second phase. And again, the plan right now is that we would go ahead and design this second phase, and then we would apply for that money about this time next year. And we would just be starting construction on this because it's going to take that long to design it and permit it. And then the plan would be to just change order this into the contractor's contract. Once you scroll down so we can see the second floor up. You can go either way and we can see a floor plan of the second floor. That's good. So on the second floor, this is a learning stair. This is a stair that students could sit on and collaborate on. That's something that's becoming very popular in buildings right now. So you come upstairs here. We have the guidance area here. And again, various labs along the back side of the building. Some of these are high bay 2-story spaces. So like the auto body or auto shop would be a 2-story space. And then some more labs here on the front of the building. And again, you can see that second floor that's ghosted in here. So without getting into a lot of detail, that's generally the floor plan of the building and how it's going to be organized. Are there any questions?
Anybody got any questions?
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments?
We have already received Ms. Wixie Stevens' signature in the document. So if it is approved tonight and we get your signature, Mr. Smith, we'll get this submitted tomorrow. Yes, she's the current chair for the county commissioners.
Terry's got his hand up.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. Just got a quick question. So I'm hearing that we have X amount of dollars in hand, but we're also going to be maybe applying for additional funds next year. Should we be apprehensive about moving forward with something that are we going to be starting on something that we don't already have a guarantee on the total amount in terms of funding?
The way we've laid this out, the school will function just fine if you don't get that additional funding. So we've put everything that's absolutely necessary for the functioning of the building in phase one. And then phase two is really an expansion. I think it's a really good plan. And it was again, Dr. Williamson's idea to break this up because because of so much inflation that we've seen in the market. I think it was a great idea. And I don't know of a better way to do it. I mean, I would be hesitant to not proceed with phase one again, because if you waited, let's say 3 months to see if you got that next round of funding, you could eat up millions of dollars of inflation. The way the market is right now, it is truly out of control right now.
So we can't function with just phase one.
You can function just fine
Okay.
with phase one.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other comments or questions? Have a motion by Brenda, second by Henry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
I'm sorry, I got one more thing on the agenda. I
Oh, I'm sorry.
apologize.
I thought you were tied in with that, man.
I've got the capital reserve fund, and it's going to be really brief.
Where's that at? Oh, I didn't have that. Okay, go ahead.
So the $5 million that we're going to receive for the planetarium and the SCIFI SCIF funds, we had discussed putting that into some type of CD of some kind to earn interest. And we also have discussed putting aside the $2.5 million match that we have to provide also in a separate CD. And that's what that makes up that capital reserve fund. And we just wanted to get approval on that. Once those funds are received, we would move forward with that and discuss whatever those rates are, as they probably change daily like everything else. Once we got that finalized, we'd bring that back before the board.
Mr. Chairman and members, I want to make sure we're clear on the $2.5 million capital reserve fund. In the original application process, the $15 million, there was a $5 million match from local government. With the new formula that included more counties making them eligible, that formula changed that to its $2.5 million. And so that really forced us to have to go into a capital reserve to keep that $5 million total there. So that's what we're really talking about, that commissioners and help me on put the $2.5 million, and then out of capital reserve, we put in $2.5 to maintain that $5 million.
That's correct. And we would just want to show that separately so it can be separate from any future fund balance that we show on our books.
And I do want, if I may please. Sure. And Erica, we've looked, there's no question, we have the $2.5 million.
No question,
that,
yes, sir.
and will not put us in a bind.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the idea of the 5 million plus the 2.5 match monies to go in a CD.
I wouldn't lock it into a CD, Henry, would you, Erica? I mean, whatever money market's out there that we're gonna draw.
We'll look and go over the best options with the bank.
Yeah.
CD at one point was the best. I haven't looked yet to see, and we'll discuss what's best with our local branch.
I just didn't want to get locked into when there's other opportunities.
I modify that motion to say that whatever is best on the market at the time of depositing the money into account.
A motion by Henry. Second by Brenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. All opposed? Somebody said something about the ball game. Let me tell you, the ball games, I know Purnell Sweat girls started at 6 o'clock. That's my understanding. The Lumberton boys are playing at 7. And St. Paul's girls and boys are playing, they started at 6. So. Have a motion to adjourn by Randy, a second by Dwayne. All in favor say aye.
All right.
Motion passed. Thank you.